I just felt like last night. I just felt like I was going to win if I felt very confident if we kept playing. I felt good about it. I think, yeah, the condition. I do think the conditions were. I mean, he was playing great, and anything could have happened last night. But it was more just like I felt like we had the time to play. I was mentally in the headspace of like we are finishing this match tonight. They told us before the match, hey, are you good to play until 11? We're going to stop at 11. So when I'm looking at the clock at the end of the fourth set, I'm thinking, oh, it's 10. There's no way that they're going to stop us. Like, we're for sure playing this fifth set. So the idea of stopping wasn't even in my mind. I thought, I was fully like tunnel visioned on like this match is finishing tonight. So, and what happened was, I get it. We both have to agree. And if we don't, then the referee makes a decision. What I didn't understand was why the referee, after he said what his decision was, he kept asking me. I think he just wanted me to like agree with them. But I said, I don't know why you keep asking me because I want to play. Stop asking me because you already said we're not playing. So I didn't get that.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel, Kim and Chris. On today's Wimbledon Day 2 catch-up, brought to you by Babolat.
French Open champ Gauff suffers early exit.
Zverev out as men's seed Exodus hits 13.
And two-time champion Petra Kvitova takes her final bow at the championships.
Kim, today is the 1st of July and we are here to catch up on Wimbledon Day 2 at Tennis Weekly HQ, brought to you by Babolat. The seed exodus has continued. 13 men's seeds are now out in round 1 at Wimbledon. 4 of the top 10 seeds in the women's draw are also out. Kim, it has been straight up carnage the last couple of days.
I think the last time this happened, Joel, in the men's side, with this many seeds going out so early, was Australian Open 2004.
Wow.
So a very long time ago. Ugo Humbert became the 13th seed late this evening.
The unlucky 13th seed.
I know.
The unlucky number 13, sorry.
Seeds. Yeah. He lost in 5 to Gael Monfils, which, I mean, that match probably had 5 sets written all over it. Late on court 12. Great scenes. Monfils doing what he does best.
Yeah. Next, you're going to be telling me he was clutching his knee and looking like he was injured and down and out, and somehow managed to come back with victory. That is what happened.
There was clutching of knees. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a withdrawal or a retirement, or I hope not. But
or Monfils make the third round
again. Well, yes, but so no shame in Humbert losing. But yeah, we have a lot of seeds out. It's motley crew of Baker's dozen. I don't know of seeds out.
Our Wimbledon coverage is brought to you by Babolat.
Babolat is an official partner of Wimbledon and the racket of choice for defending champion Carlos Alcaraz.
Since 2013, Babolat has been the official supplier of rackets, strings, bags, and accessories for Wimbledon, as well as providing the tournament's racket service since 2022, restringing over 6,000 rackets each championships.
The shared history between Babolat and Wimbledon traces back to the very roots of the game. And this year, they have something very special up their sleeve. They are celebrating their 150-year anniversary by unveiling their new Babolat Wimbledon collection to mark the start of the iconic British Grand Slam.
The elegant and modern collection features a lineup of 6 rackets, 4 shoe models, and 3 bags, and is available to purchase online and on site at SW19.
So head to babolat.com to shop their official Wimbledon collection now and celebrate 150 years of youth, innovation and passion with Babolat this Wimbledon.
Before we get into all the action today and the seeds that fell today, we do have some matches that happened or started on day 1 that had to be finished off. And actually, this was, brought quite a lot of drama today. One of the seeds that has survived and has not been added to that list, it wasn't, quite 14, it stayed at 13, as Taylor Fritz, because he had a 1-set shootout with Perricard. They had to come back onto court 1 to finish their match off today. And Taylor Fritz got the job done 6-4 in that 5th set to avoid becoming yet another casualty. Obviously, the main bit of kind of headline around this match was, should they have stopped play on the Monday night? Was it right for them to have come back? What was your take on that, Joel? Do you think that Wimbledon made the right call, or do you agree with Fritz that they should have carried on?
Well, it sounds like it wasn't Wimbledon's call at all, because Taylor Fritz on social media said they would have let us play if my opponent agreed to. I said I wanted to, he didn't. So it sounds like Perricard had the ultimate say on whether they continued. And I personally don't agree with that. I think it's Wimbledon's decision. I don't think it's any one's player decision. I think that shows kind of like bias personally, like you're favoring one person over the other. Why isn't Fritz's opinion as valid? So I don't necessarily enjoy sort of hearing that. And it was interesting to hear Fritz's comments as well, as our listeners may have heard at the start of the episode. So yeah, I'm not quite sure. I would have liked to have seen, if the curfew is there, play up to the curfew.
Yeah, what's the point of stopping at that time if you're actually going to stop 35 minutes sooner? They could have got to a point, like Fritz said, 5-5, for example, in the set, then stopped. I know it's not ideal, maybe coming back and then only playing 2 games, but at least you're potentially not stopping a match that didn't need to have been stopped and could have been finished in that time.
I also think with the schedule as well, it would have helped the schedule out massively, because the schedule has been under a lot of strain, I think, over the first couple of days, particularly on the show courts. I mean, number 1 court today, we had 5 matches, which is unbelievable. When was the last time 5 matches were played on a show court at Wimbledon? I'm not even sure if that hasn't happened in a long time, if ever before. So I think they missed a trick there by not continuing up to the very end. And yeah, I think Taylor Fritz will be relieved, because he came in good form, won Eastbourne for a 4th time. You sort of wondered how fresh was he? That such a quick turnaround, from playing and then going to Wimbledon and then going again. And the fact that he's got to play tomorrow as well. I mean, he is really the marathon man at the moment.
I mean, he did play 5 sets across 2 days, but he was very comfortable on serve. Perricard didn't generate a single break point in their match. And he's actually got a bit of a weird stat here. Perricard, back in Australia earlier on in the year, he played Monfils and didn't generate a single break point, and he's done it again against Fritz over 5 sets here. Obviously, we know he's got a cracking, booming, massive serve, but definitely lacking in the return.
Needs to work on his needs to work definitely on his return game. I mean, it was so odd actually at the end of that match that it felt like we were going on serve. Everyone was really rock solid. I was like, well, actually 10-15 years ago, I probably was like, oh, if we on for another is the Mahoo situation. But he just all of a sudden then got broken, I think, to love, for Fritz to win the match. But certainly, yeah, Perricard, like, I think a lot of people say kind of grass is a great leveler in terms of like competition, but I still think this shows that you need to have different weapons in order to win, and you can't just rely on a massive serve to get you over the finish line. You need to do stuff on return of serve as well, and Perricard was found wanting a lot in that department. So yeah, certainly something for him to work on.
Yes, and another match that finished off today, Sasha Zverev against Arthur Rinderknecht, and well, that went to 5 sets. They played a full 3 set today on centre. It did mean that Coco Gauff had to then be moved across to court 1, because there was no way they were going to get all the action done. But Rinderknecht coming through in 5 sets, getting the win, chucking Zverev out the tournament to be one of those 13 seeds out. And Rinderknecht as well. He, Zverev had many opportunities to break, but Rinderknecht unbroken. Very, very impressive stuff from him. He hadn't actually had a top 10 win before until a couple of weeks ago, and now he's got his second. So he's obviously in great form, got to the Court of Queens where he upset Ben Shelton, and continuing some great form here in the opener at Wimbledon.
Indeed. I mean, his net game as well, I think, was fantastic. 80% of his net points he won, 44 out of 55. So it just shows, again, you don't have to play at the baseline, and coming into the net is a good strategy to have, particularly, I think, against someone like a Zverev who will like to play from the baseline. I just have, just a quick word on Zverev. I mean, the 3rd seed never really done anything of note at Wimbledon, despite you'd think a game that is well suited, towards it. Why do you think that is? And why do you think you kind of comes unstuck against these sorts of opponents in Rinderknech, and it's so early on in round one.
Yeah, it's bizarre because, we know Zverev has success on grass courts. He's won Halle. I don't see any reason why his game
He won the Boss
shouldn't
Open.
be suitable. Yeah, the Boss Open, yeah. And yeah, with his serve as well, like it just to me is bizarre. Maybe he's just allergic to the Wimbledon grass specifically, because I had him in my semi-finals here. So he's definitely not lived up to my expectations, like Medvedev didn't live up to Chris's prediction as well. So yeah, I think we both need to go away and have a bit of a rethink. But we did have seeds due to play today who got their matches done and are safely through. Jannik Sinner, let's start with him. He opened the action on court one against fellow Italian Nardi. This was very comfortable. Only dropped it 7 games, did Jannik Sinner. And he was very impressive on serve as well. He had said that after Halle, where he lost to Bublik, he specifically has done a lot of work on the serve. How impressed were you, Joel, by what you saw from Sinner today?
Yeah, always a tough matchup to face a fellow Italian. But yeah, he did it very professionally, a lot more professionally, let's say, than Carlos Alcaraz, who was taken to 5 sets. So a very solid performance. And yeah, his serving was one of the things that stood out to me in the match against Nardi. He won 81% of his service points, and his first serve particularly, when that went in, he won 89% of points. So it just shows, there are big improvements being made there. And, who knows, maybe it's going to be one of the reasons that Sinner is going to be a force to be reckoned with on the grass courts of Wimbledon this year. I will say, though, I think weirdly, actually, Carlos Alcaraz has also been working on his service game. Watching him at Queen's, it wasn't quite up to standard against Fognini, but I think also, I feel like every time we talk about Sinner, I have to mention Alcaraz, but I think Alcaraz has also beefed up his serve as well. So it's quite interesting to see that both of them perhaps feel they have the similar kind of weaknesses on grass or certainly areas for improvement. So yeah, good win for Sinner.
Yeah, they know how vital the serve is on grass. But Sinner was asked in press about, that French Open final, how that might be influencing him here at Wimbledon. So let's hear what he had to say.
It's often said that you learn more from defeat than victory. What has the last month taught you about yourself, both as a person and a player, and how do you intend to use that at Wimbledon?
Well, it's a tough question because, me as person, I think I know how important tennis is for me and for my life. I think it taught me so many things, but I also know that outside of tennis is a different life, which is more important. But in the other way, it's I make all sacrifices to be ready on court. I make all sacrifices to be the best I can, and for sure last month was not easy at times, but in the other way it was beautiful. So many things happened. Never thought that I would play a final of a Grand Slam like this, and yeah, so all positive things, to be honest. And now I'm here. I'm here to show also myself that I'm capable to play tennis also on grass, hopefully, and I showed it last year. I felt like that I have improved a lot on this surface. So let's see what I can do this year. But the preparation has gone really well. So I feel good mentally and physically. Tennis, I feel like that at times I can play some good tennis. So let's see what's coming. And yeah, so all good.
I thought it was very interesting when I asked this question that he talked about the kind of beauty of the last month and the kind of the journey that he's been on since that defeat against Alcaraz in the French Open final. He's been, I think, very positive about that defeat. He's not really lingered on it. it was interesting actually to hear Darren Cahill was in an interview, his coach, saying after the French Open final, he took like a big jar of candy with him in like the players area and started handing it out. It was almost like a visualization of, okay, I've moved on. I'm thinking about different things, or other things are kind of preoccupying my mind now. So I feel like maybe with Sinner, he has, moved on. And if he can let his tennis do the talking, I think that's almost half the battle. And the way he started against Nardi, I think certainly encouraging signs, but there are going to be tougher tests to follow.
Absolutely. And let's have a look at Draper, who was also out on court one today. His match never really got going, and it ended prematurely with Sebastian Baez retiring after an hour and 14 minutes at 2-1 in the third set. He seemed to slip on the baseline in the second set, had some treatment, and very hampered movement. Joel, what was your take on this one?
Yeah, I don't think it was going to impact the result, and I don't really think there's too much to learn from this performance from Draper. He did look very good in those, those first two sets, but yeah, it was just very unfortunate, I think, for Baez. I mean, Kim, I was looking up some stats around Baez and his grass court prowess. He has not won a tour level grass match since Eastbourne 2023 against Nuno Borges. So it just goes to show you, how much for golden swing specialist he is.
Yes,
exactly. And how big of a difference in quality on a grass court there is with these two players. And it just sort of felt with that slip that Baez had, that the sort of the first sign of adversity, it was almost like it sort of flicked a switch in his brain of, actually, this is not for me. And although he tried to kind of keep it going, I think the writing was on the wall when he took a timeout. Or he certainly brought like 2 or 3 support staff onto the court, and I was looking around thinking, I think we're in trouble here for a full match.
Well, Jack Draper's draw might be looking slightly more favourable. He does have Cilic next, but beyond that, he was due to play Bublik, who was in hot form, had just won Halle, did so well at the French Open, but he lost today in 5 sets to Jaume Munar of Mallorca, 6-2 in the fifth. Bublik served for the match in 4, wasn't able to get the job done, and he's out. He is one of those seeds out in the first round. Do you think the expectation was a bit too much for him, Joel? Do you think he struggled with the new kind of focus on him?
I think so. I think this is a new situation for him. He is a bit of a streaky player as well, so I do think that has sort of reared its head again for Bublik. We know that he's capable of lights out performances, for example, at Halle, Draper at the French Open. But then again, he's also capable of these performances. And, Munar he's a decent grass court player for a Spanish player. And I think he's had a very, very understated season this year. I think he's done quite well on the tour. And Bublik, when he didn't take that fourth set, it was kind of like, I think he started to panic a bit more, and perhaps the expectation and the new sense of weight on him perhaps got the better of him. But Munar did really well, I think, to stick out in that match, win through on that fourth set tiebreak, and from there we saw sort of the Bublik of old, where he self-capitulated a little bit and handed Munar the victory.
Yes, and Munar did very well at Queen's, took Alcaraz all the way, didn't he? So I think that was maybe a bit of a
not just there's not just one Spaniard to look out for in the men's draw. In fact, you could arguably say Munar played the better tennis versus Alcaraz and against Fognini.
Yes. And let's have a look at Novak Djokovic's first round against Alexandre Müller. That went a little bit longer than I was expecting after the first set got underway. Djokovic was in complete control, and the second set, it suddenly turned the match on its head with Müller clinching that on a tie break.
How did Djokovic not win that second set? I mean, what was it? 11 break points? Didn't take any one of them. And if you don't do that, you're asking for trouble, aren't you?
Yeah, he was 5-2 up in that tie break, hit a load of unforced errors, and Müller took it. And At the start of the third set, Novak was getting some medication from the doctor. That seemed to help because after that, it was sort of business as usual, 2-2. So he got the job done, had a bit of a mini scare, but Djokovic, generally looking, comfortable enough, I would say, to make his way through. And I'm still confident that he will reach the latter stages. He knows how to overcome a challenge, and he, did that today. But no sort of massive worries, I would say.
No, but one player though that we were kind of surprised by, Lorenzo Musetti, last year's semi-finalist, he is out. Lost to Basilashvili in 4 sets. I know Musetti's not been, had the best, had the best sort of lead up to Wimbledon, and lots of points to defend from last year. But still a little bit of a surprising result going out in round 1.
Yeah, he, got injured at Roland Garros, so hasn't really sort of played since then. Had coming in with no sort of grass court prep really. So, he said he felt, uncomfortable from the beginning and was just not able to perform and move as he normally would. So I think that kind of explains it. I think, we would have expected him to do a lot better in hindsight with some prep and having, much more fitness in his usual movement. But yeah, a real shame because he did so well to get to the semis last year. But all is not lost, Joel, because he did come on with a nice sort of white leather jacket. He's now a ambassador for Bottega Veneta, which is an Italian fashion brand. So he's gone a bit down the Jannik Sinner route. It wasn't a bag, but it was a nice leather jacket he came to the court with. But sadly, that's only going to get one showing. So I bet they're not particularly happy with that.
Yeah, they've already need to jump on another Italian player, keep it going, or pass the bag. Maybe it's like pass the parcel, pass the bag around.
Yeah. On a final note from the men's draw today, I wanted to give a special shout out to Jack Pinnington-Jones, British wild card. He's playing in his first Grand Slam main draw. He won in straight sets over Echeverry, who, on his day, maybe not really affiliated with being a great grass courter, but to get the job done in straight sets. He was down a break in the third and came back to win it. And it was great to watch a bit of him out on a sort of outside court. And he's good mates with Jack Draper, actually. They used to go training together in their youth. So I think it's nice that, both Jacks coming through for GB today.
And what's this about? Is this Pedro Martinez celebrating winning against a Brit today by miming drinking a cup of tea?
Yes, he beat George Lofhagen, and he did a little when you do the little dinky teacup kind of maneuver with your pinky out. He did that as part of his celebration. So whether that was because he was playing a Brit or he's just at Wimbledon and, obviously maybe he's a big tea drinker. Maybe we should get him on the podcast and
maybe we need to ask him what his favorite tea is. Yeah.
Yes. Also on the subject of Brits, Dan Evans came through against Jay Clark. Dan Evans will face Novak Djokovic in the second round. So that's a great, opportunity for him. The last time he played Djokovic, he did actually beat him at Monte Carlo 4 years ago.
Wow.
So he has a winning record over Djokovic. Will that continue? I'm not sure, but I'd love to see it come Thursday. And we do actually have 7 British men in the second round, which is actually over 10% of the total players, which is fantastic for British tennis.
Yeah. Well, even if there is a seed exodus across the men's draw, it hasn't affected the Brits, so I am happy.
Absolutely. And we're going to take a quick break now, but we'll be back in the second half discussing all of the women's action from the second day's play at Wimbledon, including French Open champion Coco Gauff's surprise defeat to Dayan Yastremska. And we'll also be hearing from defending ladies champion Barbora Krejčíková, as well as looking ahead to day 3. So do not go anywhere. Welcome back to the Tennis Weekly podcast, brought to you by Babolat. And it's time now to look at the women's results from day 2 at Wimbledon. And well, similarly as to the men's side of things, we've had quite a few top seeds tumble, notably this evening. Coco Gauff, the second seed and recent French Open champion, has lost in straight sets on court 1 to Dayan Yastremska. Joel, this was a match that was due to be on centre but was moved across. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been on court, would they, before the end of the day's proceedings. And it didn't go well for Coco Gauff, did it?
No. I mean, a really tough slot for both of them to be in, waiting around all day, preparing to be on centre court, then all of a sudden move to number one court. I guess, both players are under the same, the same situation, same scenario. But yeah, Coco Gauff, she just does not have a good time at Wimbledon. And it still fascinates me, the fact that we always remember her coming on as a 15-year-old, producing a stellar performance against Venus Williams. Kim, that is the only top 50 win by Coco Gauff at Wimbledon, just to give you an idea of how much she underperforms at this venue. And sadly, it's the same case this year.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing today was the serve, like double faults, 9 double faults over a 2-set match, just a lot of unforced serves. Really wasn't at the races. And one of the things that you do have to think about is, coming into this, real lack of grass prep. And actually, she was asked about this in her press conference after the match.
Yeah, I think I would say whether I would play Berlin or not again, if that were to happen with French Open, just because I only practiced 2 days. And I don't know, I just feel like the surface I maybe could have used more matches, but it's like finding the puzzle. I don't usually like to play the week before. So, yeah, it's a quick turnaround. So I think just trying to learn on if it's better to train more and then play maybe Bad Homburg or Eastbourne or, yeah, I think it's just when that time comes around again, or if it comes around again, I'll approach it differently. But, I mean, I don't think it was all that either. I mean, like I said, Diana played great. I mean, I felt like I wasn't playing terrible in some points, and she was hitting winners. And, yeah, so I think it's a combination of everything. But I definitely think, I feel like this tournament for me is also based off like my first round match and my draw, and having someone who can strike the ball as well as she can is definitely difficult coming in.
It's so interesting hearing about her schedule because she's in a new position this year, French Open champion. That means even less time to really get going and get your preparations underway for the grass court season. And that sort of debate between Berlin and lead up events in that final week between a Grand Slam, it really is a dilemma, it sounds like, for a lot of players. And, Gauff, for her, it sounds like Berlin was a bit of a misstep. I mean, just seeing her on court there, again, it was a similar sort of story. And you do wonder if actually next year she might have to kind of change up her schedule, because it felt like with Berlin, it was a stacked draw. To go from the highs of the French Open to kind of going straight back into it in Berlin probably wasn't the wisest move in hindsight.
I mean, next year she may not be going so deep at the French Open. You just don't know what's going to happen. And obviously, I don't think she would regret having won the French Open, then coming here and having a really disappointing Wimbledon. She did also say that it will mean that she gets plenty of rest for the US Open and, the US Open swing. So she's kind of looking as well at the positives, I guess. But I mean, just a note on Dayan Yastremska, her level was right up there today. She could sense that this could be a vulnerable match for Coco, and she definitely brought her A game to make sure she, had a fighting chance, and she executed it. And yeah, super impressive and totally deserved the victory tonight.
Yeah. I mean, perhaps, players who have been able to afford themselves a kind of longer lead-in time for the grass court season for Wimbledon are taking full advantage, because Yastremska played so well in Nottingham, reached the final there. We had the draw preview episode. We did have this as a bit on Upset Alert. So it's not a complete shock, but the fact that she is French Open champion, it just shows the transition from clay to grass is such a hard one to achieve. And there's been a lot of talk, Kim, on the Channel Slam. I'm not quite sure if I'm a fan of that phrase, but the achievement of securing back-to-back slam titles across clay and grass, you just need to look at kind of Coco Gauff's qualities just to see how hard of a challenge that is.
Yeah, definitely not something that's easily done. And when it is done, yeah, you do have to take your hat off and applaud the uniqueness of it. I mean, we did have now, Joel, 4 of the top 10 women's seeds have gone, just like in the men's. One of those seeds, Jessica Pegula, the 3rd seed, and a recent grass court champion. She won Bad Homburg just on Saturday, just gone, beating Iga Swiatek in that final. But did that count for anything here at Wimbledon? No, it did not.
No, it did not.
lost in straight sets to Elisabetta Cocciaretto in under 1 hour, 6-2, 6-3 in 58 minutes. I mean, I imagine for most casual tennis fans turning up watching that, they would have thought that Cocciaretto was the third seed, wouldn't they, given that scoreline and that speed of victory?
Indeed. I mean, Cocciaretto, to her credit, I thought played lights out tennis. She was phenomenal. I think she's just not able to do that consistently on the tour, but she really is a quality player on her day. Having said that, Jessica Pegula, where did this come from? She's a model of consistency. We always associate her with, going, deep in Grand Slams, perhaps not the deepest runs, we'd sort of expect her to get to kind of quarterfinal stage and that's about it. But to go out in round one, very, very surprising. Her performance was very erratic at times. And it just sort of gets me wondering about how beneficial those lead up tournaments are, playing so close to when the main draw starts at Wimbledon. And actually, is it more of a disadvantage to win those sorts of titles? And as a top player like Pegula, is it actually worth saying, yeah, I could probably win this, but actually to give myself the best chance at Grand Slams, which I should be doing as a top ranked player, I probably should sit this one out?
Yeah, is there an argument that reaching like the semi-finals is actually more beneficial? I mean, Cocciaretto herself reached the semis of the Libema Open, which was, one of the first grass court events in this season. And she actually reached the semis of Birmingham last year. She has a bit of pedigree on grass. She reached the third round at Wimbledon 2 years ago as well. And
is she going to try and do a Paolini? She taking her inspiration from Paolini?
Inspiration from Paolini, perhaps, but I mean, a sad note, last year she had to withdraw from Wimbledon due to pneumonia, and that really messed her season up. She was out for quite a while and her rankings dropped considerably. So I feel like, this was a really nice story for her to get the win today, to put all, the illness from last year behind her, and hopefully she can kind of continue. And if she plays like she did today against Pegula, I'd fancy her chances to perhaps go on a bit of a run here. And, Pegula, like you said, we kind of rely on her to get to maybe like the quarters. But when she does lose in slams, she is losing to quite lowly ranked players, isn't she, Joe? In her last 6 slams, she has lost to the likes of Clara Burrell, Xinju Wang, Olga Danilovic, Lois Boisson, and now Cocciaretto. These are not household names. She is not falling at the hands of, the Sabalenkas and the Rybakines, is she?
No, and it's surprising, and perhaps being the heavy favorite is something that she is not being able to deal with at Grand Slams on those bigger stages. I feel like on the tour she would just kind of swat away these sorts of players with consummate ease, relatively speaking. But at Grand Slams, it feels like there is a bit of a challenge forming there in terms of having that mindset as the kind of the clear favorite, and being able to demonstrate that on the court. There feels like there is a blocker there, and other players are actually sort of, I think, raising their game as well. It'll be interesting to see if Cocciaretto can keep up the form she showed against Pegula, because I do think she played, expert tennis, expert grass court tennis at times, and we know how difficult it is sometimes to follow up big wins. But I think for Pegula, she needs to go away and think about, for these kind of lower ranked players, how do you handle that situation, because it's not quite working at the moment. And perhaps, Kim, it was quite surprising on Instagram, I think it was, she's an avid gamer. There was a post that came out the other day. She plays a lot of Call of Duty video game, which is like it's like a first person shooter. This came out of absolutely nowhere. It sort of spoke to me as a gamer myself. But is she playing too many video games?
Or maybe she needs to channel some of that, I don't know, focus or aggression into her tennis.
She needs to get Top Spin 2 into her video game cartridge, not shooting games.
My knowledge of video games goes as far as like Crash Bandicoot.
Mario Tennis.
So I'm
Mario
not the
Tennis,
best one to comment.
Top Spin. Yeah, maybe that's what Pegula needs to
strategy. I mean, Cocciaretto goes through to play volley nets, who took out Tatiana Maria, the recent Queen's champion, and another recent champion, Eastbourne champion Maya Joint, she lost in straights to Samsonova. So actually 4 of this year's like 6 grass court winners from the build-up events have actually lost in the first round of Wimbledon. We have only got Elise Mertens, who won the Lebema Open, and Vondrousova, who won Berlin, still remaining. So yeah, a bit of an argument, like you were saying earlier, is it actually helpful to go all the way and win one of those warm-up events? Because it seemingly isn't necessarily.
It's so surprising though. I don't really kind of understand, and I'm trying to make sense of it, because I'm wondering, are there a lot of players out there who just don't know how to play grass court tennis, and we just kind of end up with this free for all? We've seen this, I think, on the men's side quite a bit. I think we've seen this on the women's side as well. But what's funny here is that we've got players who have demonstrated that actually they can play grass court tennis, but they've just not been able to replicate it on the biggest stage of them all. So I wonder with the challenge for these players has been that they peaked at the wrong time. Apart from Vondrousova and Mertens, who are through to round 2, the fact that 4 of them have gone out in round 1 suggests to me that they peaked at the wrong moment, and they're going to need to kind of think about actually how can they replicate that tennis when it matters, when there's more ranking points available, when the prize pot and the prize money is even bigger.
Yeah, and I mean, some of them, had difficult draws, but still, you'd expect coming in with that extra form and momentum that they might get, an upset, even if they're up against a higher seed. I mean, another top seed that's out, Qinwen Zheng, she has lost to Katerina Siniakova, 6-1 in the third. I mean, Siniakova has won the women's doubles title here 3 times. She loves the grass court. She loves the Wimbledon grass court. And actually, she beat Zheng in the first round 2 years ago. So this was a repeat of that. And it went the same way with Zheng out at the first hurdle. And I thought, Zheng, she reached the semis at Queen's. I thought maybe, she might do quite well here, but seemingly not. She has not got to grips yet with the Wimbledon grass. It's fair to say.
I just don't think this court surface meshes well with her playing style. I know she got to the Queen's semi-finals, but I just look at the take back on her ground strokes. She just needs so much time when it comes to playing her game, and on grass that time just gets taken away from her. And losing to players like Siniakova on multiple occasions just shows, I think, truly actually maybe where Zheng's game is on a grass court. I think there's a lot of work to do there. I think that she's going to need to adapt her playing style a lot more than she is willing to do at the moment. And, again, it's this sort of thing on the grass court season isn't that long. How much time and effort are players willing to put in to kind of make sure that their game is ready to go for a grass court? Because I just feel like Zheng is playing her brand of tennis, not really adapted, and she's paying the price for it.
Yeah, well, one player who does know their way around a grass court, as very much evidenced last year, is Barbora Krejčíková. She opened proceedings on centre court as defending champion. Tricky opener against Alexandra Eala, but she did come through. She came through in 3 sets. And let's hear from her, first of all, about being back at Wimbledon, opening up as defending champion.
It seems like you really like the traditions here at Wimbledon. Today was a very nice tradition of opening play on centre court for the defending women's champion. You said you were really looking forward to doing that. So a few words on that experience and getting the win today on your return to centre.
Well, it was definitely a very nice experience. I really enjoyed the walk from the locker room down the stairs, in front of the door to the court, and then when it opened, it was just very beautiful and just very joyful, experience, and this was really something that I was looking forward since the last year, and I'm really happy that I had this opportunity to experience it and feel it.
I mean, it's so nice just to hear her talk about being back. Really, really looking forward to it. I was a little worried when she dropped out of Eastbourne, with, I think, tightness with her elbow, some sort of injury. But, I was actually a little bit more worried when she dropped that first set against Eala, because we did sort of have this on upset alert. We did thought, is she going to go the way of Marketa Vondrousova as well, who was the ladies champion last year and fell early. But I'm so glad that she was able to come through and wrestle it back. She looked really, really good, I think, towards the end. And I think she comes in as quite an understated champion. I don't think too many people are kind of thinking about her possibly as in the mix, for the title again. But to have her back and to hear how much Wimbledon means to her, I remember last year, her talking about it in the realms of Jana Novotná, a big inspiration to her as well. You can tell just how much this tournament means to her. So yeah, great to see her back here and opening up centre court.
Yeah, and I think that last set, it was closer than maybe the scoreline suggests, a lot of juice games. So Eala, definitely no shame there. Her first experience of centre court, and she was impressive still.
She was very impressive. I mean, to take a set off the defending champion on, I think that was her Wimbledon debut on centre court on such a big occasion, I do think that, there's going to be some very exciting, I think she's definitely going to be a player to watch for the future. I think if there is one thing about her game that perhaps is going to be holding her back, I think it is her serve. It's not as big as I think it perhaps needs to be on the tour to help her rise up the rankings. I think her serve leaves her a little bit too vulnerable at the moment, but of course it's still very early days for her. She's such an exciting prospect, I think, and it'll be really fascinating to see how her game develops. But certainly I think the serve is something she's going to need to look to improve on.
Yes. Well, from one Czech former champion to another, Petra Kvitova, this is her last Wimbledon, her last time on show court. And, she won the title twice, but yeah, obviously she's a bit of a shadow of her former self and how she was playing back then. Although I did wonder, Joel, she was up against Emma Navarro today. She quickly went, a break up. And I thought, blimey, is Kvitova here for this?
And I was like, oh, this is the old Petra Kvitova. She was blasting winners. And I was kind of wondering, wouldn't it be great to just get one last hurrah, one last victory from Petra Kvitova, a place that holds so many memories for her? Can she make one more memory? Sadly not. She couldn't necessarily kind of keep that level up, and Navarro really sort of ran away with it towards the end. And by the end of it, sadly, I was a little bit like, this feels like the right time, for Kvitova to retire based on, sadly, the level that she brings to the court now. But regardless of that, to hear her on court, two-time former champion, she gave a wave to the crowd as well. It sounds like, she's ready, for her next stage of life. And, this is a nice swan song that she's been able to have. Might not necessarily be on centre, but just to be back on a show court on number one in front of the British public at a place that she has done so well at is incredible. And she did say she can't wait to be back as a member. So it's not the last time she's going to be at Wimbledon, but certainly it was nice to see her one more time on court number one.
Yeah, she definitely said she'd had some many personal highlights over her lifetime at Wimbledon. I think she got engaged at Wimbledon. So yeah, lovely moments for her. And yeah, we'll look forward to seeing her in the Royal Box as a member, flashing her privileges. Why not? She certainly earned it.
I mean, Kim, one thing I will say, another Wimbledon champion we had play today, Elena Rybakina. Yeah. Kvitova got the court one treatment. Rybakina did not get the court one treatment because I think she was meant to play on court three. I was looking at this at the start of the day because it was the fifth match on court three, and I was
ambitious
thinking,
scheduling. I
thought that was very ambitious, particularly with 4 matches already scheduled for number one and centre. And I was thinking, I really, really hope this gets played today because she will be absolutely fuming if it gets cancelled and pushed over tomorrow. Well, they were able to play it, but they pushed the Wimbledon champion onto court 14. Kim, Rybakina is like one of my favourites for the tournament, and they're putting her out on court 14 in round one.
Well, she's humble. She got the job done
devastated.
very easily.
Mm.
She's not going to kick up a fuss about that, and that's probably just as well because that there was no chance she was getting on a show court with all the crammed schedule they had it on there. But yeah, I'm sure next time round she will be promoted from
maybe as an olive branch. She'll get a
14 or
a
whatever
nice
it was.
cushy centre court assignment or a number one court assignment next round.
Yes. Well, let's have a look now at the schedule for tomorrow's action, day 3. I don't think we've got any of the really top seeds out on the really out there courts, but we do have the world number 1 Sabalenka headlining the action to begin the day on centre court. She's up against Buzkova. Then we've got Oliver Tarvet against Carlos Alcaraz. I can't wait to see how Tarvet gets on there. And followed by Emma Raducanu against 2023 champion Marketa Vondrousova. So yeah, 2 Brits on centre. Joel, are you happy with that lineup?
I think so. I think if you compare it to number 1, I think day 1 and day 2 for me actually have been stronger on number 1 court, although you'd arguably say there has been a lot more drama on centre court today. But I think here the schedule for centre is fascinating. I'm particularly interested in Raducanu Vondrousova. That is going to be a big test for Raducanu. Vondrousova looked very good against Kessler in the first round, and a former Wimbledon champion. That is no easy task for Emma Raducanu. So very exciting prospect indeed. Number 1 court as well. I mean, Nori, Tiafoe, Bolter, Sierra, Fritz, Diallo. It's a little bit more underwhelming for me. I just hope that Bolter can come through against Sierra. I mean, lucky loser from Argentina. She should be able to kind of follow up from that win against Badosa. I'd be leaning towards centre though.
I mean, we've had the 2 British jacks beating Argentinians today, so let's hope Bolter can get another win tomorrow over an Argentinian. I'm curious about Diallo. I've got him, I think, in my quarterfinals, so I'm sensing he's going to upset.
I mean, how fresh is Fritz going to be?
Yeah, he hasn't had a full day off, has he? Of course. Quick dip into court 2. Billy Harris is up against Nuno Borges, so another British
wide open part of the draw. I mean, one of those players could quite easily get to a quarterfinal. So there's a lot of motivation at play. Osaka on court 2 as well. Will Nick Kyrgios be in her box? What was that about, Kim? I still don't really understand what happened. It sort of sounded like Osaka was joking, like, "Oh, wouldn't it be funny if Kyrgios was in my box?" And then Kyrgios took that seriously, and he was there. Is he going to be there? Is he going to be there tomorrow?
He's got us guessing, and that's probably how he likes it. Arthur Ferry also in action against Darderi. So a couple of Brits on there, as well as Madison Keys opening up. Sonny Cartal opens on court 3. I've got Paulini on there as well later on. Rublev, Davidovich, Fokina. So loads happening in the second round as that kicks off on Wednesday. I'm can't wait to see. I think for me, Tarvet Alcaraz is my match of the day. Just, how many games is Tarvet going to get? How is he going to react?
Got to think more optimistically than that. How many sets is he going to win? How many sets is he going to win? How much more money is he going to have to forfeit? Yeah, exactly. We'll see. But we're going to wrap up our Wimbledon Day 2 catch-up brought to you by Babolat here at Tennis Weekly HQ. We hope you've enjoyed the ride with us. Remember to subscribe so you don't miss a moment of action from Wimbledon. Once again, we are going to be producing daily episodes across the fortnight. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and all your favourite podcasting platforms out there. And if you love what you're hearing, be sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, as well as hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube.
And stay connected with us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and X at Tennis Weekly Pod on all of those. And if you'd like to get in touch with the show, you can reach out to us on social media or drop us an email on tennisweeklypod@gmail.com or visit our website, tennisweekly.co.uk.
And we'll be back on Wednesday for our Wimbledon Day 3 catch-up brought to you by Babolat. But until then, it's goodbye from Kim.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time on Tennis Weekly.